Good morning, everybody.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Oh, wow. Isn't that so beautiful to hear these beautiful voices all together? So it's a very, very happy day at TSS. We can see a lot of chairs being occupied by the incarnate spirits, which is great. And before we do our reading and our prayer, I just want to say hi to Vera and San. They are the founders of TSS. They moved to Brazil a few years ago and they are here visiting their children, celebrating son graduation at universities. So it's a beautiful day and it's a happy day to have you here and see your face. It's like I'm dreaming. I'm not. So it's happy to be here and also to see the children at TSS. Thank you. Thank you, Marco. So today we are doing the initial prayer. Oh, I'm sorry, the initial reading by the Happy Life by Joana de Angelis, and it's Andivaldo Pereira Franco. Set aside some time to appreciate beauty. Wake up early to see the sunrise and value the force of its light. Walk through the woods quietly, breathing in the air of nature. Contemplate a starry night and ask silent questions. Contemplate a rose as it opens in full bloom. Stop beside an innocent child. Talk with a tranquil old person. Open yourself up to the beauty, and it is everything, and adorn yourself with air. So let's close our eyes. Let's elevate our thoughts to God, our Creator, to Jesus, our Master of Love, our guiding light, and to all the spirits present here today, the incarnate and discarnate ones. And ask Jesus to give Joyce the clarity of mind and the harmony of her heart, so she can be the pure instrument of His words and of His love. And then also ask Jesus to open up our minds and our thoughts to receive these messages and to introduce them consciously in our daily lives. And so be it. So today, our lecture is going to be given to us by Joyce Magalhaes, and the name of the lecture is Does Happiness Exist? Thank you, Joyce.
Good morning, everyone. It's so nice and make me so happy to be here again today in house. I don't even remember the last time I was here for a lecture, or even like for me, it's my first time coming back physically to TSS. So I'm very, very thankful for this moment. Definitely more than 2 years. And God bless our return, and hopefully all our lives can be at least a little closer to what it used to be in the past, right? So today I'm going to talk about happiness. It's a very interesting topic. And we're going to go through many different reflections today. And I want to start by asking all of you, you don't need to answer loud, but I want you to think about that question. What do you want from your life? What do you expect from your life? When somebody asks you that question, I'm pretty sure if you are honest to yourself, that the first thing that comes to your mind is, I want to be happy. If I ask you, what do you want from your life? Most of us, the first thing that comes is, I want to be happy, right? So we're going to talk about that, what that means, and what is exactly the happiness that we can achieve in this life. So in the spirit in the spiritist books in general, there are many passages and teachings about this. I will focus today basically on the Spirit's book as well as the Gospel according to Spiritism, but most of it is in the Spirit's book, part 4. Part 4 and part 5 talks a little bit, but mainly part 4, there are many questions with this idea about happiness and how to achieve. And I will go a little bit about some of those questions, but I invite you all as well to read more because there are definitely more things there that I will not be able to cover. So I will start by the question 920 that asks, can human beings enjoy perfect happiness on earth? And the spirits, they are very clear in saying no, because corporeal life has been appointed to them either as a trial or as an atonement. People must reduce their misfortunes themselves and make their lives as happy as possible while on earth. So I started this lecture today by this question on purpose. At the beginning, I was thinking, oh, maybe it's too hard to start right away by telling that basically happiness does not exist, because that's basically the meaning of this answer, right? In a simple way. And I found, oh, this might be a little bit frustrating, right? Because probably for many of us or for some of us, the first thing that kind of bring you to a spiritist house or bring you like that curiosity to find out more about spiritism is because you are pursuing happiness on your life. For some, maybe something's going wrong and you try to find what is the pathway for me to find that happiness. And then you come to the spiritist house and the first thing you hear from me is that, forget it, the happiness does not exist. So you might feel, oh my God, so what the purpose, right? But I promise to you that by the end, we're going to understand better what this means and what is exactly the happiness that we're going to talk about and the happiness that we can achieve. And you understand that actually that happiness that we have in mind, that perfect happiness, doesn't make sense really to exist, because that only would be fair to have it if we were perfect spirits or perfect human beings. And we are a lot away from that. We are on the pathway. And I guess the good news is that we did the first step just by being here or by studying and by trying to learn more. It gives us a hint that we are at least trying to improve ourselves. And we are kind of getting a little bit closer to that happiness that we dream for. So in question 921, they continue to ask, we understand that human beings will be happy on earth when the human race has been transformed. That makes sense. Then they ask, meanwhile, can people ensure a moderate amount of happiness for themselves? And then here comes the spirits to answer us and give us some consolation, saying, human beings are often the architect of their own happiness. If they obey God's law, they spare themselves much sorrow and also secure all the happiness corresponding with the human condition. So this is getting a little bit closer to the idea that I want to bring to all of you today. That yes, it's possible to get some happiness in life, and depends on you. We need to try to understand and start the process of understanding that nothing happen with us that is by chance. Everything that we receive, either happiness or sadness or trials or expiations or everything, is a result of something that have happened in the past, either in this life or in previous lives. So by knowing and be sure that God is all justice and love, we start the process of understanding that we are never victim and God will never be unfair to any of us. If God allow us to achieve that perfect happiness right away, it also would be unfair because we made mistakes that require correction. Wouldn't be fair for us to be totally happy. At the same time, God also give us a chance to redo every day, to restart every day, to forgive every day, and continue this pathway of progress, which means all the love that God gave to us, right? And then God's law are very clear. We are the ones that break them all the time. So every time we break them, there will be consequences, right? And that can be very painful sometimes, but we need to understand that it's all consequence of our own choices. So once we start to understand that, it gives us some resignation to understand the pain we are going through in this life, and also help us to understand that yes, that happiness that we dream is right there. We just need to make the smart choices to get to that. So there's a comment after that question in the Spirit's book that says people who are positive about their future destinies view their physical life as a temporary station. It is for them a momentary stopover at an awful hotel. They easily find solace for the fleeting frustrations of their journey in the fact that it is bringing them to a new and happier position, which will be all the more favorable in proportion to the preparations they have made. So it's all about your choices. In this life, we are punished for violating the laws of corporeal existence by suffering that is a consequence of this violation and by the suffering that results from our own excesses and mistakes. When we trace human trouble back to their origin, we find that the overwhelming majority are the result of an initial deviation from the right path. So everything, every suffering, every pain that we are facing now was certainly a deviation from the right path that we made at some point. Can be this life, can be previous lives. This deviation forces us to enter a wrong path, and each subsequent steps bring us more deeply into misfortune until we finally understand that we need to deviate again to the right pathway. And believe it or not, I think just as I said initially, by being here, by giving yourself a chance to learn and to evolve, I think is the first step to maybe bring you back to that right pathway. The question 922, it asks, earthly happiness is relative to each person's position, so that what suffices for the happiness of one can be the cause of misfortune for another. Is there a common standard of happiness for everyone? And then the spirits answer, with regard to material life, it is the possession of what is necessary for survival. So no matter what, that's the standard, the basics, right? In the material life is to have what is the minimum thing that you need to survive. With regard to moral life, it is the possession of a good conscience and the belief in a future life. And that's exactly what we are doing here today, right? To learning more about our conscience, about the future life, about the meaning of life. And then in the Spirit's book, and that part 4, all those questions are in the part 4. They keep going through this topic, and also going through how the material things, like if the material things can bring you happiness, and the spirits keep telling us all that the maximum that can bring us is that temporary happiness. And it's interesting because there are many also, not in the spiritism, but many psychological studies that have shown that uh, that all material things, either a house that you buy, a car that you dream for and you're finally able to buy it, or even a job that you struggle so hard to achieve it and you're finally succeed on it, that will give you maybe a few minutes, a few hours, or a few days of happiness. And then your life is going to go back to the basics, to that baseline. So you will never be able to find happiness in the material aspect of life. Okay. And most of us here can probably experience that. How nice is when you get a material thing or something that you were really dreaming for, right? How nice is when you get a new house? It's so excited. But that probably is for the first couple of days or months. And then that become ordinary for you. Yeah, your life continue, and that is does not matter that much. Of course, you're always going to feel blessed that, oh, I have a house. So many people don't even have that. But that feeling of happiness that you have inside, that is gone like that, right? And that is a proof that you never be able to find happiness in physical things. So it really needs to come from inside you. And it's interesting because that also brings me the idea that I've heard many years ago, even before coming to Canada from Brazil. Someone told me something like that happiness needs to be within you, inside you. Don't move to a place or do something because you are pursuing happiness. You will never be able to find happiness on a place. That was the time that we were kind of discussing, oh, should I move from Brazil? Should I go to Canada or not? And we see people struggling about those decisions a lot, right? Or even those who immigrated and they are wondering if they should go back to their home countries because they are not happy here or there. If you stay with that mentality and that understanding that you're going to find happiness in the place, you'll never be able to really get to that stage of happy or of feeling happy. However, on the other hand, if you start to understand that the happiness is within you, no matter where you are, you'll be able to be happy. Okay, so we see many frustrations between people in general, exactly because they're that mistake. We see, so for example, many of us here from Brazil, we see so many people that have that thing, oh, I'm going to move to America to pursue that dream of living in USA, that the American dream. Those are the ones that's going to be frustrated right away, because there is not such a thing that happiness in a place, right? They're gonna move and they're gonna see that the same problems and struggles that they had back home, they will face that same things wherever they go. So until you really understand that the happiness needs to start within you, that's the only way for you to get closer to that feeling of happiness. And also that help you to understand all the trials and all the struggles that you face in life. Help you to understand and find that resignation that God really wants us to feel it, and to be able to overcome your struggles and your problems is only when you have that resignation inside you. And that comes by really feeling the happiness inside you and have that positive attitude that I mentioned before. So, in question 926, it asks, does civilization, by creating new wants, become the source of new afflictions? And the spirits, again, with the same idea, they clearly says, the problems of your world are proportional to the artificial wants that you create for yourselves. People who are able to set limits on their desires and see what is above them without feeling envy spare themselves many disappointments. The richest person is the one with the fewest needs. So it's not the one with more money, it's the one that needs less. Because as more you feel you need, harder and harder will be for you to achieve the happiness. Because there's always going to be something missing, right? For you, it's always going to be something missing. You get something and then you want more, and then you want more, and then you want more, and you never be able to really feel satisfied. So the spirits basically tells us that all our sorrow and pain and struggle are all creation from our own choices and our own values, right? So maybe it's something for us to reflect. And then question 933 asks, people are often the architect of their own physical suffering. We already understand that. Are they the architect of their moral suffering as well? And then the Spirit says, even more so, because material suffering is sometimes independent of their will. However, wounded pride, disappointed ambition, the anxieties of greed, envy, jealousy, and all the passions are the torments of the soul. And you're only going to be able to feel happy if you are able to clear all those vices from your soul. And then the comment from that question is even deeper on that topic. They say, envy and jealousy. Blessed are those who do not know these two worms. Where envy and jealousy exist, there can be no calm or tranquility. These passions torment anyone who is a slave to them, even in their sleep. The envious and jealous are always agitated. Is such a state desirable? Do you not understand that you create the most terrible tortures with such passions, and that earth then truly becomes a hell for you? So, and how many of us feel jealous sometimes? If you think that this is not for you, so maybe it's a call now to really reflect, because I have to say that I'm still working on that. There are moments for sure that I feel jealous, or that I'm a little bit proud of something, or proud in a negative way, or I have too much ambitions for something, or we all have still those vices, and they are all very connected to our selfishness. Because no matter how much evolved we are here, we still carry a lot of that. And that's exactly why we are here incarnated on earth, right? To work on that and try to minimize that feeling, that vice on us. And we only be able to get a little bit closer to happiness and understand what the truly happiness means when we are able to clear that from our heart, okay? And then the Spirit's book also continue with that idea, and also talking about ingratitude. How hard is to accept and to understand ingratitude towards us. And then the spirits are clear in explaining to us that if you are doing good, and you are doing with the best intention any action to someone else, and you receive back ingratitude, most of us feel very, very sad and frustrated, right? Because when we serve and we offer something, especially if that comes truly from our heart, we always expect something at least similar back to us. And it's very common in our world, either from our own kids, from family, from friends, everywhere. It's very common to receive an ingratitude back. But the spirits clearly also explain to us that that shouldn't be a reason to make us sad. Actually, we need to have that peace inside of us because we did the best we could in any specific situation. We shouldn't be sad if we don't receive the same love back. We need to understand that if that love or that good action really came truly from your heart, we shouldn't expect something back. If you receive something back, that's a bonus, but that shouldn't be a cause from your sadness or your frustration. Because also the other persons where we offer that love and care, they also face the same struggles as us. They are also child of God in this pathway of evolution, and they might be even under us in the level of evolution. So they might not be able to offer the same love that we are offering to them. So instead of feeling sad ourselves, we should feel a little bit sorry for that person and maybe pray for her or for him. That can be, as I said, your own kid, your partner, your co-worker, anywhere. Okay, so in that also shouldn't impair you to continue to do good to everyone, because that's also something that happens quite often, right? When we do something with the best intention and we do not receive a gratitude action backwards, we tend to, okay, I'll not do this. This is like this is silly. I've been silly by doing this. I'll not, like, I've been stupid. I will not do this anymore. Should be the opposite, because you did what you were supposed to. If the other person didn't, number one, that shouldn't be a cause for your sadness, and that shouldn't avoid you to continue to do good. So there are a couple of questions about that idea, and I found very interesting, because if we look in our lives, probably many of us have been through that. And we need to understand that we shouldn't be unhappy by doing good. Okay? And in the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 5, there is a part that called about the justice of afflictions. This is also help us to understand why we face so much trials and difficulties and struggles in life. Why does that happen if God is all justice and love? Because we tend to think that we are always victim, right? That what is happening to us is not fair. So in the chapter 5 of the Gospel, in the item 3, the spirits, they say, the compensation promised by Jesus to the afflicted of this earth can only be affected in a future life. Without the certainty of this future, these maxims would be a contradiction. And that's why it's so important. You only understand this idea if you really believe that there is a future life. We only understand the justice from God if we believe that there's a future life. If we look only in this step in our current life, it's impossible to understand justice, right? While some has so much and some has like close to nothing. That would be very unfair, right? And that's the struggle that many people, especially those who does not have any religion or spiritual connection, that's the biggest struggle for them to understand life. And many got into depression and because of that, right? So why do some suffer more than the others? Why are some born in misery and others in a rich place without having done anything to justify this situation, right? So Spiritism help us to understand why that happened, why some are so fortunate in our eyes, and though the others are so poor and like struggle so much. However, once God's existence has been admitted, one cannot conceive him as being less than infinitely perfect. So once we truly understand God, we see that he always perfect. He is naturally all powerful, all just, and all kindness, without which he would not be God. If he is supremely good and just, then he cannot act capriciously, nor yet with partiality. The vicissitudes of life derive from a cause, and as God is just, so then that cause must also be just. This is what each one of us must convince ourselves of. We really need to understand that, right? Through the teachings of Jesus, God started man on the path to find that cause. And now that man is sufficiently mature as to be able to understand, he, God, has revealed the cause by means of Spiritism. So that's exactly what Spiritism came for, to bring us this light, to help us to understand what is the cause of all our suffering, our struggle, and our pain. Once we start to understand that, that can make a whole difference in the way we face those struggles. And that can give us the resignation and the strength we need to overcome it and get closer to the happiness we look for. This is to say, though, through the words of the spirits, they conclude. So in that chapter 5, they finalized, on the gospel, they finalize. So then, blessed are the afflicted. May be translated. So then, the sentence, blessed are the afflicted, may be translated in the following manner. Blessed are those who have occasions to prove their faith, firmness, perseverance, and submission to the will of God, because they will have multiplied 100 times the happiness they lacked on earth. For after labor comes repose. This was said by Lacordaire back in 1863. So this gives us so much consolation to understand that if our life is so hard now, I can continue to work with resignation, do the best I can, because there's much better things waiting for me. And I really need to believe on that. That's the only way for us to get the strength and the faith to grow and get closer to the happiness we are looking for, right? And also in that part of the gospel, they mention again that typical sentence that we all know from the gospel, that the happiness is not of this world. So they go again in the gospel. I mentioned the Spirit's book, but the gospel gives us the same idea that the happiness is not of this world because we are not there yet. However, there is a level of happiness and understanding of happiness that we can achieve. That will be a consequence of our own acts, our own choices, and our attitude. So once I understand that I cannot achieve the perfect happiness because I'm not perfect yet, I will start to work on myself. And I can always have the choice to make my life as happy as it can be. Okay? So then I go back again to the question from the beginning. Does happiness exist? So I hope that by some of those reflections, we are not as much frustrated anymore as we are in the beginning. That yes, I understand that there's no perfect happiness, but I understand that I can make it as close as it can be in my life. So again, when I go back to that question, what do you want for your life? Then you think, okay, I want to be happy. So how I can achieve that? This brings me back to the time that I got married, because I got married in the Catholic Church. For those here who had the background in Catholicism, you know that everything in the Catholic Church, for you to get it, there's always a course that you need to do. So there was a pre-wedding, pre-marriage course. I was there with Marco. And we were lucky because there was a very bright and smart priest that gave us that course.
Very lucky.
Yeah, and I have to say that there was quite good, because one of the things that he started was exactly with the question, why do you get married? Why you decide to get married? And most people said, oh, I got married to be happy. Oh, I decided to get married to be happy. And then the first thing that the priest said was, well, so we are starting wrong. We're just starting wrong. So your answer should be, I decide to get married not to be happy, but to make my partner happy. And then that makes me think, that's actually something very true, in a way that helps me to understand that the happiness that I'm looking for, I will only be able to achieve when, instead of thinking on myself, I start to think on the others. By serving the others, and when I say serving, is not in a submission way, right? Serving is just helping someone, offering love to someone, or doing good to someone. It can be your partner, it can be anyone else. Just by doing that, what I want to bring to you guys is that idea that when I start to do something good to the others, that is what's going to bring happiness to me. And that is so important, because also that gives me the idea, like, when one of the things that we struggle much more in life is when we lose a loving one, right? When you lose your child, for example, probably that is one of the most painful thing to go through in life and to understand that. So that brings lots of sadness to us. But once we start to think, okay, I have the choice of getting to a very depressed mood, not in being a rebel and not understanding why this is happening to me, blah, 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 and all those negative spiral connection. Or I can look and say, okay, so what I can do from this? I have the option to serve, doing a voluntary work somewhere, helping someone in need. That will bring me the consolation and the strength by seeing that by my action I can make someone feeling better. That brings us so much goodness inside of us that will help us get closer to the happiness that we are lacking at that moment. So that is the same idea of that what the priest told me in that course. So by starting a relationship, if you think only on yourself, that is meant to fail, for sure. If the only successful in a relationship is when you think more in the others, what can I do to make the other happy? That will also help you to look into yourself, in your struggles, in your vices, and try to change yourself. Also, because you can never be able to change the other, right? So maybe by doing a good example, that can inspire the other to change too, right? And together you guys can grow. We can grow. So that applies for everything. So every time that someone is suffering a lot in life and come to me for some advice, one of the things that I try to say is see something good that you can do. Can be a volunteer work in the hospital or in poor communities, or there's so much things that we can do, and especially nowadays, our planet is going through so much difficulties, right? If you give yourself a chance to offer something good, you see that you're going to receive right away something much bigger for you. So there is also one study that was done about like to try to understand the connection between health, happiness and wealth, because we still have that idea that for you to be happy, you need to have material things. You need to have money to be able to buy whatever thing you want. So we have the idea that if the society become richer and richer, they will be happier. And this study was done in USA, in the United States. And they studied, if I'm not wrong, the last 50 years or so. So there was definitely a huge economical improvement in the American society, right? From 50 years back to now, they probably multiplied all the wealth like by 10 or more. So the studies was pretty good and showed the curve growing up and up on the economy and financial situation of the society in general. But when they assessed all the aspects of happiness, they have questions to that they offer to the population, and they see there's a psychological way to assess the happiness. They saw that the curve of happiness was pretty much the same. So while the wealth and the money go higher up, that stayed the same in the last 50 years. So that clearly tells us that there is no connection, right? Another example, if you look into Japan, Japan went through the Second World War, and we all know the country was totally devastated, right? Like probably something very similar or worse than what is happening in Ukraine at this moment. Definitely worse because there was the bomb in Japan at that time. So everything was devastated. And after the war was done, the society got together because they want to rebuild the country, right? And they started that idea that was good that they got united to a good purpose, but was unfortunately too much focused on material things. They got so stuck with that idea that we need to rebuild our country just with matter, like with just the material aspect of it. They totally forgot the moral aspect of it, unfortunately. And they were so obsessed in work, 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 because we need to make money, we need to rebuild, we need to get back to as a economical potence in the world. And that truly happened. The Japanese, they are very disciplined in whatever they decide to do. And they truly succeed on that part. Today is one of the richest country, more like one of the most successfully economical country in the world. However, all the study shows that is one of the countries that is more far away from being a happy country, a happy people. Unfortunately, they suffer a lot with suicide, depression, and all those things. So again, that is a good example to show us that if you don't find the correct values in life and that balanced life, there's nothing wrong on work and try to get the material things that you dream for. That's okay, as long as you don't get too much value to those things and really realize what matters in life by looking into your moral aspect as well as try to clear and to get rid of your vices. And when we think about the component of happiness, there is also another study that they did with population in general, that they try to understand what make the feeling of happiness on us. They figure out that 50% of that is genetic, which makes sense because also biologically there is physical changes in our body to make us happy. Hormonal changes, chemical changes. We know about dopamine, that is very important, that needs to be released in our system. That is one of the most important chemicals in our body to make us feel happy. We know already after all those studies that things like physical activity is one of the most important things to release those dopamine and give us that sensation of happiness. And there are some people that genetically they just lack more than the others that production, that release of dopamine. And that's also why medication like antidepressants help us feel a little bit happier because they all act on those neurotransmitters and change the physiology inside of our body. So we know 50% is basically genetic, that we cannot change much, but that is counts for 50%, is not everything. About 10% is the circumstances, like what I have, if I have money, my social status in the society, if I have a job or not, or if I have a family, all the support I have, those counts only for 10%. And usually we believe that those are the most important because we tend to blame, oh, I'm sad because I lost a job, because I lost a family member, I lost my child, or because I lost a job and I'm now very poor, I cannot pay my bills. We tend to justify our depression and our sadness and our struggles to the circumstances. But the studies showed that that's count only for 10%. And the big part, the other 40%, is basically what we do with each situation. And that's exactly what can be connected from the science with the Spiritism, because Spiritism teaches exactly that point. What we do, yes, it's terrible, painful to lose your child. But now what? What you gonna do from now on? You always have the power to choose. I want my life to be miserable from now on, or I want to make it change. I'm the one who control it. Nobody can do that for you. It's only you. And you have that choice every day. So you lost a job. Yes, that's terrible, especially now that the economy is all messed up with the pandemic and everything. So in your mind, you'll never be able to find another job. And then you are struggling and depressed more and more because what can I do? What I'm going to do? It's up to you. You have the chance to connect more and more to that negative thoughts and go deeper and deeper down the hole. Or you can maybe think about, well, I can change career, I can go back to school, or I can start my own business. How many people, like, unfortunately, they are able to realize that only after going through all that pain. But how many people in 10 years or so are really thankful about the struggle that they have had 10 years back, because that was the push for them to change. And now they are able to get even happier life. Things they are able to get, even things that they never thought before. If they never have had lost their job prior, they will just being still accommodated in that state and never really being pushed for a change. So remember, anything that happened in your life, there's a reason. There's a reason, and that is usually a consequence of something else. So you are never a victim. So these are the things. So, like for us, many of us here are immigrants, right? So we definitely face many, many struggles since we are here. So probably that there is a reason. And that and you need to think what brought me here. And if you are facing a struggle at this moment, a specific struggle, think about what can I do from now on. It's your choice. So your happiness will be directly related to your action when you face a difficult situation. And you're never going to be a victim. If you stay persistent with that thought, it will be very hard for you to find a solution. So you need to see yourself as an important part of your own history. You are the one who can choose, and your attitude and your choice is the one that's going to either direct you to a miserable life or something closer to the happiness that we can achieve, knowing that that won't be the perfect happiness, but it will be as close as it can be. So I was seeing a documentary yesterday, and I highly recommend to everyone. It's called Happy. You can see in Prime Video for those who has Prime, or you can go to thehappymovie.com. Yes, thehappymovie.com is the website that you can rent from them too. On Prime, it's for free for it have Prime. So that documentary is from 2012, like 10 years ago, but it's still very true. Everything that you see there applies totally to our situation now. And that documentary is not connected to any religion, but it says and it goes through all the things that we learned from Spiritism in a way to make you reflect about what you do in your life, how do you see life, and what is your attitude towards all the things that you face in life. It's about 1 hour and a half or so. It's not a very long documentary, but it's very interesting. And we had, for example, one example there was a lady that she was very pretty when she was young. Like everybody called attention of people because she was very, very pretty woman. And she was unfortunate to have a awful car accident that pretty much broke her whole face, like destroyed. When I say broke, it's like totally destroyed, especially half of her face. She almost died, and she had to went through like multiple surgeries first to bring it back the function of his face, and then also plastic surgery to make her at least look more like a human, a human being. Like it was, and of course now she has lots of scars, paralysis. It's not perfect, but at least now you can see an eye, a nose, at least the minimum thing, and she looks a lot better. But of course, she's very far away from the pretty woman she was. So for many people, and she said that she struggled, of course, right? I'm not saying here that we are perfectly strong and we can go through that situation easily. No, but she had the moment that she looked in the mirror and she said, oh, why did I survive from this? Like, why didn't I die? Because it would be a lot easier, right? But then she had the choice. She survived. So maybe there's a reason why she survived, right? So she had the chance either to get into a very depression mode or to change her attitude and look what the life has to offer to her. And after the accident, her husband gave up and abandoned her. He was not able to cope with that. But then, with all the changes on herself that she went through, she was able to find a new partner. And it's beautiful because she says that how much of all that transformed herself, that she feels a lot happier now than when she had that perfect life. And she says in the documentary says, oh, and she talks about the partner that she found. And she says, oh, I feel happy because she called me beautiful, right? It's small things, right? But it's all on the way you see it, and what is your attitude, and what is valuable in your life. Is that really just the physical appearance, or what you are from inside? Right? So only when we make all those reflections, it helps us to understand what is happiness, what is the happiness that I can achieve, what I do from the life I have at this moment. So again, I bring the question and I leave you guys with that question, because it's not me who gonna give you the final answer, but I want you all to go home and think, does happiness exist? And then you see what you can do at your own home, your own environment, your work, your family, to try to bring that closer to you guys, the idea of the happiness and understanding what is happiness. And I hope that the idea here is not for you to keep pursuing happiness forever and forever, that fake happiness, but really to think on you and on your life, on yourself, and see, does happiness live in my heart? What I can do, from what are the choices I can make, how I can make my life better, and how I can help the others, because that is a key aspect of it as well. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here again. And moments for comments, questions.
Yes. So now we are going to be opening for comments. Welcome. To questions. Is there any questions to Joyce? Or any comments? Or any reflections? No? So it's, I have a comment.
Sure.
I was very much happy for Marco to have that priest. Good for you, Marco. But it's just, this is charity in action, right?
Exactly.
It's love is charity in action. So when you are taking care of the other person, when like you're looking for his happiness, you're doing for him, but you're doing for yourself first, because you feel that back to you. You feel that you have that beautiful person. So when Joy is happy, I'm happy. And I'm sure when I'm happy, he is happy. That I'm sure. And it's not easy. It's not something that is easy, because we all have our own issues to go through, and we wanted somebody else to take care of us when we're going through our issues. But this is when we really can come out of it and can say, okay, what is the happiness that I have now? Because sometimes it's not the one that we aim to, but it's the one that I already have in myself and I don't recognize. So looking in these little things that life offers us is living our happiness that we deserve. Okay, Sean?
Yes, I think the key point that you said, Joyce, is that it's up to the spirit to decide whether we're happy or unhappy with anything that's happening around us, which it's one of those areas that when we do the study in Spiritism, we can separate the material spirit from the spiritual spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're incarnated, the spirit inherits some of the dependency, some of the nature of material things.
Mm-hmm.
And where we're discarnated, we're just purely spiritual spirit. And we know that for the spiritual spirit, happiness is following God's laws.
Correct.
So anytime the spirit is following God's law, he's happy, right? And the first purpose of reincarnating is to make them better at that. So we have our reincarnatory plan. So that spirit spiritually will be happy if they are able to meet the expectations of why they reincarnated in the first place.
Mhm.
Question is, why are you getting married? The question to the spirit is, why are you getting reincarnated, right?
Yeah.
Why are you coming back to this material world? And we have our plan, which we don't remember what it is. So anytime, sometimes you feel really happy, you don't know why, it's because the spiritual spirit is happy. It's happy because it probably did something that we wanted to achieve in this life. And then we got that beautiful feeling. Now, the material spirit is another problem apart because we're now contaminated by the material world. So we have desires, we have pleasures,
Mhm.
and all of these tend to influence the quote
Absolutely.
happiness of that material spirit. And the reality is, we'll never be happy materially because that's the
Exactly.
purpose of the
It's never
spirit.
enough. Yeah.
It's never enough. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Can I ask you to do our
Oh, sure,
final prayer? Okay. Thank you, everybody. I'll hope to see you all here next Sunday. And after next Sunday, we will be starting the passes, right?
No, I think, no, I think after.
Probably this.
Let's announce when we decide.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for all you being here today, and hope to see you again on next Sunday, either here or virtually.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And so now it's time for us to close our eyes, connect ourselves to all this beautiful energy around us at this moment with a heart full of gratitude for this life, for being here in this life, for having the situation that I do have, even if it is a very difficult situation at this moment. I kindly ask our mentors and our loving spirits that help us understand the purpose of those struggles with a grateful heart for also having those difficulties, because they are the keys and the pathway for us to grow. Help us to have the strength and the resignation to overcome those problems. Help us to find joy in every situation in life. And above all, help us to be instrument of love, of care, of happiness, the happiness that we can in this life. Thank you for the beautiful day. And we also ask for all of us to go back home and take home all the good feelings that we are sharing at this moment. Take to our home the love and care that everybody deserves. And we ask for a beautiful and blessed week for all of us. So be it.